Welcome in, everybody. Vic Mensa is a Chicagoan, a hip-hop artist, an activist, an entrepreneur, and an outspoken political ally to many oppressed communities. In this interview that I had with Vic, we talk about the ongoing genocide. We talk about the oppression of marginalized communities. We talk about Elon Musk's takeover, and of course, his relationship with Kanye West, his music career, and much more. I will say, on a personal note, I am someone who came across Vic Mensa's music about 2014 when I moved back to Chicago from LA for the first time. And what I saw when I did get to see him at the Vic Theater was a man whose stage presence was already impeccable and his lyricism was straight on point. To then see the man that I looked up to be right next to me and interview him for now the second time, it is really wholesome and a full circle moment for me. Before I show the interview, I do want to tell you, we had a janky cord, full transparency, and the first portion of the interview is going to have audio that is picked up from around and not on the microphones. We would then regain audio, and it would obviously be that much better. That comes at about the 28-minute mark, but I did not want to take out a portion of our interview because he goes over a really interesting story that involves Pharrell Williams. Without further ado, here is Vic Mensa. Vic Mensa, who loves orange soda?
Kel. Shout out to Kel, man. I think I was with Kel a few years ago, man. What a legend. You know, Kel from Chicago. I never really knew that growing up. Definitely didn't know that growing up.
Where'd you see him?
I was with Kel either at Wildin' Out or like a Dave Chappelle concert. I feel like it was a scenario like that.
Did you think when you recorded that video and that song that the stars would align that you would meet him? And did you tell him about the song?
Did I show him that song at the time? I don't know. I mean, did I think the stars would align to meet Kel? Like, I love all that, you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
But I don't know that I like idolized meeting Kel. I probably wasn't thinking about that at all, you know? I think the people that I was like, I gotta meet, you know, more like Kanye, Jay-Z, Pharrell. Probably Pharrell was the person when I made that song that like I was dreaming, I was manifesting that I would work with Pharrell, you know, because I was just always so inspired by Pharrell. Like that song was really just my Pharrell impersonation, you know, like love it. That was my Pharrell impersonation, you know. Mm-hmm. So those stars did align, yeah.
You manifested it?
I did. People would always ask me, like, who do you want to meet? Or who do you want to work with? You know, obviously that's one of the most obvious questions. And I would just say Pharrell for years and years on end. I want to work with Pharrell. I want to work with Pharrell. Until ultimately, you know, that came to be.
Did he hear about you? Did he reach out to you?
How did I get together with Pharrell? I think Lenny S put me and Pharrell together. I'm not really sure how it came together particularly, but I feel like it was Lenny S that put the session together.
What did you learn from Pharrell?
Pharrell gave me some of the most important advice. I was dealing with a situation in Chicago where one of the Muslim brothers was robbing me for a music video that we didn't end up shooting in Chicago. And here was a guy who was like, Brother Vic, Brother Cody, man, it's such a blessing to, you know. And then when the music video had to be shifted to LA, music video for 16 shots actually had to be shifted to LA, the Muslim brother I'm talking about started acting funny with the money that we had put up to do this video and didn't shoot. And he accidentally texted my manager saying, if they ask you anything, just play dumb.
Okay.
So, I start bugging out. Like, definitely threatened his life. I had a plan in my head. I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna fly back to Chicago. I know where his office is. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna stake it out, and hopefully I can catch somebody coming out the door for me to get in. But if necessary, I'm breaking all windows. I'm destroying everything. I'm fucking him up. I had this whole plan, and then I got the studio with Pharrell, and I'm just like stewing in my anger, stewing in my fury. And Pharrell was like, you're lucky in this situation because you don't have to be the person, first of all, that looks somebody in the eye that they call brother and steals from them. Secondly, you're lucky because this $15,000 is not going to ruin you, make a significant dent in you. And thirdly, you're lucky because you do have the ability to just move on from this shit. And I was like, yo, this nigga, he's a real guru, because that was such profound advice, you know what I mean, to like a young nigga that has always felt a chip on his shoulder and felt like, so many times I felt I was ready to risk everything, freedom, life, over disrespect, purely, what I mean? So many times in my life, especially when I was younger, I felt like this person says this thing to me, does this thing, I have no possibilities other than violence. And if I don't do, I'm not even gonna consider if I don't do it, because this is what I have to do. So if I gotta kill him, then he's going to die, and I'm probably have to go to prison for this shit. And I really didn't think past that, past that step, because I was like, it's a non-negotiable thing. You've done this shit, I have to respond that way. And Pharrell, he gave me such important game in telling me that you absolutely do not have to live your life that way. You know what I mean? And ultimately, it makes zero sense to live your life that way. To be somebody full of blessings with so much abundance and just poured and showered with favor from God, and you're ready to kill or be killed, throw your life away over petty shit, like money you could get in 5 minutes on a stage. Doesn't make sense. And he didn't have to go into that much minutia. That was just for me to stew on it, think about it, and just reassess the way that I was living my life. And it took some time, it definitely took time. It took another situation where somebody did something similar and I did go act out and fuck them up, and then had to deal with a few of those, honestly, for where I had to go and deal with the financial, the paranoia of these people not able to kill me. I had to deal with that a few more times before I realized, it's actually a much more powerful decision to make, to exercise restraint, to just let it go. That's some shit that way more difficult, so much easier to lash out than it is to let it go.
Isn't that part of growing up too?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, shit, Tupac didn't live past 25, man. And obviously that was the divine plan for him, and it's like the things that he contributed to society and contributed to history are magnificent. But, there's a reason why he didn't live past 25. And we know the brain is, really just reaching stages of completion, development, the male brain at that time. And so, like, especially coming from circumstances which, circumstances are very different from mine, but I think the essence of just like our culture as young black men in America, hip hop culture obviously is rooted in that, is definitely founded upon like principles of revenge. Like, this is the necessary path of action. And definitely in growing up, the blessing, like, I thank God all the time. I was having a conversation with one of my guys who's about to come home. He's been incarcerated almost as long as I've been alive.
Oh, wow.
He's like 50 something now.
Oh, wow.
He got locked up in the 90s. and his name is Swavell Tolliver. And when I tell you this dude is brilliant, like if you were to sit here and have this conversation with him, he would just be astounded by his insight and his linguistic ability and, you know, everything about him. But he'd been incarcerated for the last 25, 27 years or something like that. And the circumstances that led to his incarceration were like this. Family member has a feud with somebody in the neighborhood. It's female, so he probably feels extra protective. And they say, Suave, come here. They're doing this. So Suave comes to protect his family. Men from that other woman's family also arrive. Suave got his pistol because this is just what it is. They have it, and ensuing conflict, few people die. And I was doing my morning gratitude routine. I'll take 15 minutes every morning, walk the dog around the block, and just go into the details of things I'm grateful for, from breath in my lungs to waking up this morning, to my family, access to food and water, and freedom. And I was like, man, I have been in that exact fucking circumstance. And I just got the lucky card. I got dealt the lucky card that when somebody called me and said, Vic, I remember one of my boys was like, man, they just slapped me outside the club. Security, bring the pistol, you know? And so I bring it like a fucking dumbass. I ride over there and bring it. And thank God nobody's there waiting for me with their own gun. Because then what happens?
Mm-hmm.
You know, do we not even get to have this conversation because somebody fucking brilliant and full of light like me is just in jail for the next 25 years because I showed up to try to help a friend or a loved one, and I showed up in haste, you know, and shot somebody or something like that? Man, shit can happen to fucking anybody. So, you know, I say that to say that, like, I was having that realization the other day that, like, in being young, man, the blessing is to have been able to just survive it, you know, to survive it. And it's not that I made favorable decisions, but, you know, in comparison to somebody that had to fucking sit their whole life in prison. I didn't make the better decision in a lot of fucking scenarios. I just got dealt a different hand.
Where does this wisdom come from?
Man, you know, necessity. I mean, I think, like, just gotta learn from the things that we experience, you know. And for me, the only way I can learn from my behavior is to break it down, analyze it, and a lot of studying, you know, a lot of books, a lot of like meditative traditions and spiritual traditions, and because I think you can't change what did Malcolm X say? He said, once you change your thought pattern, you change your behavior pattern. Once you change your behavior pattern, you change like your speech or something like that, you know. But basically, it starts with a thought, you know.
Mm.
So in order to impact your behavior pattern, for me, I need to make it consciously make sense. Like I used to smoke bad cigarettes. Like when we first met, I was like a chain smoker, you know. And people obviously always tell me, stop smoking cigarettes. It just never clicked for me, you know. I didn't value life that much. I didn't realize that's why I was a chain smoker, smoking up to almost 2 packs. No, not almost, smoking 2 packs a day at a point in time. I didn't realize that's why I was a chain smoker, for real, until something happened that made me value my life. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna stop doing this today, you know. I'm just not gonna smoke cigarettes anymore. I might take a drag of somebody's cigarette if I'm in Paris or some shit like that, but I'm not a cigarette smoker anymore because cognitively I came to understand that if I value my life and I want my life to be long, then it's antithetical to that thought pattern for me to do something that, like, is just a benign self-destruct button. You know, it's not like it even serves you. Smoking cigarettes doesn't, like, give you something creatively or,
Right, of course.
you know, it's not, we just do it, you know, out of habit, but it's benign, you know, for real. And so Yeah, shit. Shout out to Lupe too. Lupe helped me stop smoking cigarettes.
Yeah?
He just would be on my ass all the time, like, stop smoking them fucking cigarettes.
How often do you see him?
Lupe, I don't see Lupe a lot.
You wish you did more?
Hell yeah, I wish I see Lupe more, man. I've been having questions for him. I want to ask him. Like, I keep seeing him in passing, but as I'm like working on my current album, I just want to talk to Lupe about his process of writing conceptual songs. Like, I want to know, does he blueprint those songs with these like wild fucking concepts? Like, you got a song called Gotta Eat off the Cool, and it's like, my man says life ain't easy. When niggas gotta eat, that's when shit get greasy. Streets be all like, feed me. And he like talks about a person as a Big Mac. He's like, he had a Mac. He had a whole lot of seeds. Like, it's just like so ill.
Yeah.
And I just want to know, like, does Lupe sketch out, Does he say, okay, the concept of this song is going to be like, what's the impetus of what's the inception, of the idea? What's the root, Does he write, the first verse is going to be from the perspective of a Big Mac as a human being, you know what I mean? Or does he, inshallah, it's not this? Does it just all come out? But I don't know. I don't take it to be that, because Lupe is so cerebral. He's so detailed and so cerebral that I would think he would probably be one of the guys that labors over the words a little bit, because they're so detailed,
Yes.
Like, I know that about Andre 3000, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had a conversation with him a couple years back just about writing. I ran into him with Salehi Benbury, the designer,
Mm-hmm.
and we were just hanging in downtown LA, going to like art museum, kicking it at Soho House. And so I really finally got that opportunity to like, just like pick Andre 3000's brain, which has been one of my dreams, my whole life.
Did you manifest it too?
For sure. I'm still working on part of that. I've been saying Andre 3000 is a person I want to work with for many years now, once the Pharrell one happened. But point being, I talked to Andre 3000 about his songwriting process, and he was telling me that he writes pretty much all of his shit that we know and love was written driving in the car, like driving on the highway. And that's what I do now, so we were just talking about that. And he was like, yeah, 90% of what you hear from me, I write in the car. I wasn't sitting at a control desk in the studio. I was driving. And so it's something interesting about writing your raps while you're driving. I picked it up from Common, because I heard him talking about it in an interview. That one album he was riding around South Side Chicago, like writing. I already write out loud, like I don't write on a page. I just kind of repeat the things out loud over and over again. And what happens when you're driving that can give you some great insight lyrically is that you're ever so distracted, like you have to focus on what you're doing.
Of course.
Like, you gotta stop at the stop sign. It gets a little weird sometimes. Sometimes people are honking behind me because I'm like spaced out writing this rap. But you gotta stop at the stop sign. You gotta turn left. You gotta turn right. Something about a distracted mind, I think, is like almost a creative hack, because you diffuse some of the self-critical, voices that, for me, always exist in writing and in just creative pursuits. It's like, is this the right thing to say? Is this any good? Was the last line good? Where should I go? You know what I mean? But when you're driving, it helps to just kick some of that off, because your focus is fragmented, and you're in this insulated box. So like, however you want to scream or use your voice, and there's zero element of what do the other people in the room think about what I'm doing. It's just like, it's like a small little vocal booth. But that was so dope talking to Andre about it, because It made sense to me. And I know Andre to be somebody that like fucking labors over every word, you know.
That was awesome. Here's my follow-up. You are, and people that I've spoken to have said they knew that you were going to be a star. And they knew that you were going to be great. And album after album, you've proven your worth, not just to the industry, but also to the consumer. Why do you labor over every word, and why do you still have self-doubt when you've proven so much at such a young age?
You know, I read a lot about the process of writing, and somehow it does seem to me that through the ages, you know, this has been some of the weight of the pen, you know. It's just like, especially when you feel a calling for it, you know. I never really did music as a meal ticket, you know. I always really wrote because I just wanted to express something great, and so just trying to say new things, you know what I mean, and trying to kind of one up myself, you know, trying to consistently show improvement. And I think right now the reality is for me to just like it takes a lot of fucking consistency at work, especially like I told you I do everything sober right now, and so that element is removed, you know, like I'm on Molly, I'm just like, you know, whatever the fuck, because that's the self-doubt diffuser, you know.
That's true.
It's drugs,
That's
you
true.
know. But the thing is, man, them shits just grind me to the rail. It just was not worth it, you know what I mean? So many times that I just pushed myself and the serotonin in my brain to the point of just, I just want to die, you know, like so suicidal through those things that it's not worth it, you know. It doesn't hold longevity for me. But ultimately, though, I will say though, you know, my pursuit, for sure, I still go every day like, yeah, I want this to become easier, you know, like this is gonna become easier. I'm just gonna keep doing it with so much intentionality and just so much consistency until it becomes easier. And you know, it works like that to a degree. For sure it does, you know, when you have more, it's like being in the gym, you know. It's literally like being in the gym. If you get in the gym today and you ain't been in a month, then doing that 2 plates is going to be fucking difficult.
That next day is going to be rough.
You know, just to literally get them up, you know what I mean? To get the 2 plates up is going to be difficult. But if you've been in every day and you've been working on it and you're stronger, you know, then the weight is much easier to lift. That's kind of how it feels for me to write. But you know, sometimes I listen to some of the guys that I just like have always idolized as writers, and I feel like I can commiserate with them sometimes when they fucking express like similar shit. You know, like I remember in this last album with Jay-Z, that Jay Electronica was just like, he had this couplet. It was like 40 days, 40 nights, trying to live up to the hype. Something about sometimes I was held down by the gravity of my pen. Sometimes I was held down by the gravity of my sin. Sometimes, like Santiago, at crucial points in my novel, my only logical option was transform into the wind. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
I didn't even remember the alchemist dude's name was Santiago. I don't really remember the alchemist like that, you know? But I felt him when he said that, though, man. You know, I felt him when he said that. Sometimes I was held down by the gravity of my pen. When you feel responsibility to, like, really push it forward and do something phenomenal, then. But you know, the pursuit, like I said, I think it's so intertwined with the pursuit of joy and positive mental health. It's like, how do I approach this with more ease? How do I make it more peaceful, more ease, you know? working on it, looking for if anybody got an answer, you know.
I mean,
let me know.
no, not I. I think we're all sort of like as human beings in pursuit of that, like mental clarity at all
Right.
times. But I also think that we're chasing an imperfect race. That like you're continually trying to level yourself at all times. And we do these things like going to the gym helps with my mental health because it gets dark as hell up there. Like walking the dog in the morning clears my head for the workday. Like it helps a lot more. So I think if we continue to try and put our best foot forward in pursuit of those things, as I say, mental clarity, then maybe it will lead to a more consistent life of being able to control devices and just basically be happier in a way. But it's also extremely difficult. Like hearing you say what you said, and you know, as I alluded to in my question of you being young, successful, and also just really damn good at what you do, is I could tell in some capacity, like, and maybe I'll just ask it instead of assuming, is there a burden that you feel to like continue to not only have success, but like improve yourself as a human being to the people around you and to yourself?
I think self-improvement to me doesn't feel like a burden though. I think it feels just more like an aspiration, you know. I feel motivated to improve myself as much as I felt motivated to become a dope rapper when I was 14, you know, or 15 years old, and like went home every day like excited to fucking write my rhymes. You know what I'm saying? Oftentimes I feel that same fucking motivation right now. Now I've been doing this shit a long time, you know? And so sometimes I think it can feel a little belabored, but then, you know, there are other moments when it feels just as, you know, just as exciting and just like I'm motivated to do it. You know, like I was talking to Jay Electronica a few days ago about some things, talking to him about some music. And so I, you know, was inspired to go write some shit based on those conversations. And just writing it and like trying to get off exactly what I had to say and inserting the perspective and information that I have today. It was like, it was so fun. It felt just like, you know, when I was 15 or whatever, but it was like pulling from a different base of like resource, you know. And now I got other things too that I'm motivated to improve. Like you said, like in the gym, I'm motivated to improve myself in that way. Like my diet, my meditation, I'm motivated to improve myself that way. Working on film and TV, like motivated to do it. You know, that shit's not a burden to me. It's kind of like, and it's just a blessing. I was in the studio with Joey the other day, and it was like, he said something.
Joey's Verb.
Yeah.
Yep.
He said something that was like, it was just the right way to look at this shit, you know. And he was like, man, isn't it so blessed? We get to make music. You know, that was the whole perspective. You know, he was like, I just sit down every day. Every time I come to the studio and I get to do this shit, I just feel blessed, you know. And I was like, damn, such a simplistic and powerful way of looking at whatever you do. You know what I'm saying? Because there's somebody that loves it, you know, and just music maybe removed from like a hip hop, modern day pop culture, whatever. Music as a force in human experience is like, music is such an integral part of nature, the song of the birds, the sound of the rushing water. Like to be able to make that, you know, and like you've made a whole life out of you just make this, you know what I mean? You do the other shit surrounded by it, but you just make it, you know? It's cool as fuck, you know? It is a real blessing. He was right about that.
For sure. Like Jay Electronica bars. It's just so
transform
fucking
into
good.
the wind, and it's so
God.
real because it's
So
like,
good.
where did you go, nigga? Nobody knows.
True.
This nigga's been in Mexico for like fucking 3 years now, bro. He sent me the verse from my last album. It was.
But you weren't in the studio with him.
No, he was in like a pyramid in Mexico, bro. I looked at
It's
you know how
iPhone
iPhone notes, they are titled the place where you record them?
Yeah.
He sent me the voice note, and it was like, Amactitipillion. I looked that shit up, and I'm like, yo, this shit was uncannily close to a pyramid in Mexico.
Oh my God.
And I talked to him the other day, it was like, I'm like, what is +79? What? Oh, you're still in Mexico?
Do you swap books with him?
Nah, I don't know what the fuck Jay Electronica be reading. Hell no. You know, Jay Electronica doesn't just talk about his basic references. Like me, I'm like a fucking book club. I'll be like, yeah, I read all this stuff. I do this shit. You know, read this, try this, check that out. Oh, I learned about this from here. You have no clue what Jay, because he don't. You talk to Jay. He don't even. Jay Elect don't even really act like all that fucking insane information is stored in his brain. He's more like making ridiculous jokes and memes and shit.
Oh, that's fine.
I've never in my life heard Jay Electronica talk about a book.
Really?
But you know he's reading
of course.
a ridiculous amount of shit.
1,000%.
You know he is, but I've never heard him. I never heard it. I never heard him say one thing that I could be like, oh, I should go read that. Like Pac put a lot of people on the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which I used in like the just creative ideologies of my last project, because I learned the story of Osiris, you know, through there. And really through Suavel, who I was talking about earlier, he reignited that, like, put me on some specific, go check this out from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. But Pac left clues like that, you know? It's like, yeah, fuck with this. Nipsey has left some clues on things that he read that inspired him. Jay Elect, he more like an enigma, a mystery, like kind of like No ID. I remember one time I was in the studio with No ID, and I'm like hovering over his shoulder, you know, looking at his laptop, trying to figure out how he's doing what he's doing. And eventually he just turned and he was like, nigga, you would never figure out this And I was like, this is probably true. I mean, I'm not going to try, but you're right. I don't think I will ever figure out your style.
Right. Well, he has his own style.
I don't think I'm going to figure it out. You know, I can piecemeal, take bits and pieces of, you know, but he's not going to just give you fucking the blueprint plans to how he does it. You know, I think probably Kanye was the last motherfucker. And Dahi. He and Dahi, they share secrets, you know. You'll probably have more luck trying to get it from Dahi than trying to get it from Dion. Dion ain't finna tell you what the fuck, how he did what he did. You can look at his computer for 6 months straight. You still won't get it.
Who would you say has one of the best sample flips that you've seen?
Definitely Dion, bro. I mean, the way Dion samples, it's just so masterful, you know, because he'll pull fragments, shards of sample from all throughout the track, you know. So there might be a 3-second piece from the first 8 bars, and then like a 1-second little from the final 8 bars, you know. And it's just high level craftsmanship. There's a producer in Chicago also from that similar cloth named SC. SC is ridiculous.
Oh, I heard about SC.
SC is really, really ridiculous with the samples. And then Ye, I mean, fucking Kanye, the ways that it occurs to Kanye to sample are so crazy. Like, to slow down PYT and make that into Good Life. That's like half the fucking speed of Michael Jackson PYT, and it's like created the craziest. But Kanye learned from No ID, so
right.
And obviously took it to his own astral plane.
What happened at Nez's party when you were given counterfeit money?
Yeah, man, that was one of my first times hustling. I think I was 15, and Nez used to throw these house parties. They were probably 22, 23. I was about 15, and I was sitting in the windowsill weighing my weed on a scale. Just so hot, you know what I mean? I have my whole jab and I'm weighing it out, and these guys came up to me and they were like, yeah, we want whatever we got, and they gave me 2 fake $50 bills. But I had just started hustling. That's indicative of how I was acting, and I didn't know how to like look at the money to see if it's fake or strip and shit. And so I took the fake money. I went back to my plug at the time. It was a dude named Be Nice, which is a weird name now that I think of it because he was pretty intimidating.
Okay.
I went back to Be Nice. It felt like I was like fucking in Friday After Next with Big Worm and shit. Cause I gave him the 50s. I'm thinking it's real. He's like, this shit not real. I'm like, wait, no, these are definitely real. He said, take it to the gas station to go check. Fake as fuck. Super fake. So I lost out, but I learned a lesson in that experience,
Yeah.
Gotta check those bills.
That was the lesson learned?
Yeah.
Simple.
Gotta know how to check those bills, man.
What happened at 73rd and St. Lawrence?
I don't fucking know. I was on 73rd and St. Lawrence. What was I doing there?
There was a studio there.
Ned's studio was the one on 73rd and St. Lawrence. Maybe you're thinking about 63rd and the one where they had the shootout outside?
As I was told, there was a studio at 73rd and St. Lawrence, and the door would be locked as soon as anyone entered, and you apparently rapped your ass off in that studio.
I don't know who told you this. Was
I can't reveal my sources.
73rd and St. Lawrence. Now that sounds like Nez and Rio's studio.
What happened there?
I don't know. I feel like I thought I just used to go there and listen to beats. I don't even remember them having a microphone in that studio. I was probably rapping my ass off for sure, though. I mean, that was just like the time frame, of like really, really writing so many raps. I always had a 64-bar verse ready to go. I still do. I definitely got a 64-bar verse on deck right now, but that was apropos for the time. So I think that's probably Nez and Rio's studio. I can't imagine I was on another studio.
It was Nez and Rio's studio.
St. Lawrence is crazy.
Is it true that your dad, at first, was a little weary of you getting into rap music, and or hip hop, and one of them talked to your pops about what you were doing in music?
Yeah, I think it was both of them. It was both of them, or it was Rio. Went to go talk to my dad to just kind of put a vote of confidence in me and be like, man, he's actually going to make it doing this. He's really good. My dad came to America through education. My dad's a PhD professor in health economics, like mathematics. And so that's what afforded him a better life, was education, pure and simple. And so for me to be not concerned at all with my education, you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't give a fuck less, I didn't care about school for shit. I mean, I still did well in school because it was just not really permissible. It was not negotiable, and it wasn't hard for me to do well in school, because I would just kind of you know. Look at your shit, look at his shit, make my own discernment from there, make my own judgments based on your decisions, you know. No, so school was easy for me, but yeah, my pops, he was like, he definitely wanted me to go to college, you know, obviously, and yeah, I wasn't really concerned with that, and I didn't really get into any colleges, you know, because I had so much disciplinary shit in high school, and just like, I think I got suspended like once every year from 6th grade through 12th grade, at least once, you know. And
But what was it for?
My suspensions?
Yeah.
Shit, my first suspension was for graffiti.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that turned into like an art form for you.
For sure.
Yeah.
It was an art form, but it was also vandalism.
Yeah.
You know, so I was tagging a trash can in the alleyway by the school, and one of the teachers happened to be driving through the alley and saw me, and then they noticed that what I was tagging on that trash can was the same thing that was tagged all over the school. and yeah, I got
What was the
suspended.
message?
Oh, I learned how to not snitch from that, because they tricked me into snitching. So they were like, it was a group of us. I mean, it's the 6th grade. We were TTT crew, taggers tagging things.
Okay.
TTT crew. Shout out to my boy Wiley. And they're like, man, I know you didn't do all this alone. Like, it's all over the place, you know, like different handwriting. You just tell us everybody who's involved. Nobody's gonna get in trouble. I told everybody. We all got suspended. So I guess the lesson in that was, don't believe the police when they try to coerce you into snitching. Don't believe them. Yeah, I mean, shit. I got suspended for that. Usually for fighting, though. I think most of the time I got suspended for fighting. I got arrested a lot in high school too, and so I think all those things probably contributed with my general apathy about college in general to me not getting accepted to shit, you know. And like, I wanted the schools I was interested in were like Northwestern and, you know, like fucking ill schools, you know. If I was at all interested, it was dope shit like that. And it was like, although my test scores were really high and my essay, I'm sure, was amazing, like, all things considered, you know what I mean, I wasn't like pick of the litter, you know.
Do you remember what you got on the ACT or the SAT, whatever you took?
ACT was like 31.
Oh my God, dude.
Something like that. I don't SAT though. I was burnt. I was like, I already did the ACT. Why am I doing the fucking? Why am I doing this one? Like,
Yeah.
I already killed that one. What the fuck is the point of this? So I don't think I really.
Did you study for the ACT like at all? Did you take classes and stuff?
I must have. I mean, I must have, because I got a really good score on it. I mean,
Yeah.
my fucking one
I
of my
hated those
sisters got
classes.
like a perfect score on that shit. What did it go up to? Like 35?
36.
One of my
36.
sisters got like a 35 or 36. I definitely did some kind of, because they had classes for it, right? They had
Tons. Hated them.
like study programs and shit like that. You know, shit. I thought if I got the good ACT, always had, you know, good grades and a killer essay, I'm like, y'all gotta fuck with me, but
Right.
they wasn't fucking with me.
No, but look at the route that,
Yeah,
you know.
no, it's cool. It wasn't in the cards for me. I don't think I would have lasted.
A buddy of mine wants me to ask you this.
Yeah.
Because you worked with Damien Albarn.
A little bit, yeah.
What was he like, and how'd you guys link up?
Damien Albarn. I don't know how I met Damien Albarn, but Damien Albarn is really cool, kind. He brought me to perform some Gorillaz concerts.
Governor's Ball.
Yeah, I think it was like on my birthday 10 years ago.
It was on your birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was 21, my 21st birthday. Let me come perform Clint Eastwood.
It
with
was
them.
Clint Eastwood.
And it was like so fun, because I'm just like a huge Gorillaz fan. And I guess it's kind of crazy to think that, you know, that music is is old now, you know. But it's of a certain inventiveness that I don't think it ever ages. Like that Gorillaz music in general. But
Right.
like, I DJ fucking Feel Good Inc. and Dare and Clint Eastwood and shit like that all the time. Never sounds old. It just sounds alternative, you know. But in 2000, whenever that was, I guess 2014, how old was that shit then? That was already old. It was from like 07 or something, right? Yeah, Damien Albarn's shit. He gave me like this ill keyboard called a pocket piano. It's like in the vein of like an OP1, which is like this little synth that, you know, we carry around with us and shit. So I didn't like work with Damien Albarn extensively. My guy Twilight Tone produced one of those Gorillaz albums. Humans is what that album is called, from around that time frame. And he's definitely told me about like the stories. Here's one thing I do remember actually from working with Damien Albarn.
Please.
He was telling me about how he studied this like medieval ages scientist named Dr. John or something like that. And basically Dr. John had like, and forgive me if that's not the right name, but basically this doctor had created incantations and spells for like, I don't know, human immortality or some shit like that. And that Damien Albarn was telling me how he had unearthed these like medieval scrolls and was enacting those spells like to the T, like he was doing them for real. And I think they were giving him magical powers. I say that to say that Damien Albarn tapped in to some other kind of information, you know? He's like tapped into some shit that people ain't tapped into. Like who's doing 15th century incantations like to the T, like actually doing them. They say you gotta go get 3 locks of hair from a, you know, prostitute or something. I don't know. You know
Right.
type shit though, you know, from an adulterer or some shit. And you know, Damien Albarn was doing spells.
Damn. In England.
I would assume so. Shit, I don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's their history. That's their culture. I don't know. I don't know Damien Albarn's fucking like ethnic background and shit, but I would be willing to wager that it's like some people that did, you know, magic in castles at some point in their lineage type shit, you know. Like my people, we do magic outside, you know, and in castles too, but like our magic is like Vodun, you know. Vodun is like real spiritual magic. Shit actually works, you know what I'm saying? Like people are resurrected from the dead in Haitian voodoo, which is a spin-off or, you know, development from West African Vodun. And I feel like every culture has their mysticism, you know. And I definitely fully believe in those things because my grandfather was a Vodun practitioner, you know, and I guess my grandmother or great grandmother was the voodoo priest. And yeah, that shit is real, you know. Shit is real, point blank.
I remember you gave an interview, I think it was with Complex, where you talked about that. When you were in Ghana, I believe.
Word.
I'm blanking on the guy's name.
Sway?
No. He was built though. Built, wore a tank top. He was really cool. You guys touched on Vodun and other stuff. One thing you said though, is quote, "It was the whole white Jesus thing that turned me off." Now look, I don't think this is very controversial. I think there are. I think there is realistic evidence that points to him being a Palestinian man. But what was it about it, the white Jesus thing, that turned you off?
The tool of colonization and white supremacy has been to erase the gods the names, the spiritual traditions, and beliefs of the African. And that's a phenomenal way of controlling a people, is if you can convince a people to renounce their gods, those who they consider to be omnipotent, to hold all power in the universe. If you can convince them that those entities, those deities, are in fact evil and they should worship a singular God that looks exactly like you, I mean, you've got them. There's no breaking free from that. You know, for the average person, they're not going to be able to break free from that, because you can justify absolutely anything and everything with divine presence. And so growing up with an African consciousness and being faced with this white Jesus that seemed historically inaccurate, improbable, implausible to begin with, and then just, you know, comprehending like the systems of control, I just could never ever connect to it. I could never connect to the idea that we as African people were supposed to worship a white God. And it just never made sense to me. And it really turned me away from Christianity, you know. It turned me away from Christianity for real, and I held on to it for a long, long time. I remember one Christmas, I was outside of Cook County trying to go visit our friend James. And I was salty because they wouldn't let me in because I was on probation. I decided to set a gas fire in my fucking group chat with Chance and all of them. And I was like, y'all know they gave you Jesus with slavery, right? On fucking Christmas. And the group chat goes up in flames. Everybody's like, fuck you, nigga. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? Kirsten's like, I'm not talking to this nigga at all. You know what I mean? It's Christmas. It's his whole birthday.
Yep.
And, you know, that wasn't the wise thing to
Looking back, it's objectively funny, though. The timing is
objectively
hilarious.
Funny.
Hilarious.
Definitely hilarious. Fully unnecessary, you know. And I don't blame them, you know, because they're deeply Christian. So that shit was offensive. That group chat disbanded. Now, to be fair, I don't think that was a sustainable group chat, because that group chat was the guys and all their girlfriends and wives.
That's tough.
That's not how group chats work,
That's
nigga.
tough.
Group chats are supposed to be the guys or the girls. Like, we don't all have a group chat together.
I have one. And I will say, it's dead silent on there.
Yeah.
It's dead silent.
No,
There's random check-ins here and there with the kids.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Something like that, but not like an active.
No.
What we on? What's going on, y'all? What we finna get into? That's cap. Cause that's just a fucking death trap. So I blew that group chat.
So PSA, real quick, if you want to blow up your group chat, just talk about colonization, talk about white supremacy, talk about how Jesus is literally a brown man.
Jesus, just Jesus and slavery on Christmas. That's a surefire way to blow up a group chat. But you know what, man? In recent years, like I've really come to have an immense amount of appreciation for Jesus and the Bible. You know, like I started reading the Bible just as a collection of stories, because obviously it's like the #1 bestseller of all fucking time, like the best-selling book to ever drop, you know? And man, the Bible is so fucking phenomenal. It's so amazing. There's so much wisdom, so much that's applicable to the human experience. Like, to take it beyond the dimension of like binary constructs of race and obviously all of the human inconsistencies that are projected through it. Just amazing. You know what I mean? I love the Bible now. I study that shit now, you know, even though I'm Muslim now too, and I practice Islam, but like I study the Bible because the Bible is so linear and so layered and like the most illest storytelling. You know what I mean? I feel like human beings will find a way to be corrupt, you know, and will use whatever vessel necessary to express their corruption, whether that's, your Christianity, whether that's Islam, whether that's, voodoo or agnosticism, whatever it is. Human beings will use a religious vessel because it's a good veil for like dishonesty. You know what I mean? But at the root, I don't know if it's the existence of the religions themselves that is, so destructive to the planet. Although it's kind of hard to make the argument that it's not, because fuck. But but at the same time, as somebody that has benefited so much from the things that I learned from religion, from Islam, I think Islam is one of those things that becomes a very complex conversation, because the same is true for Islam, that Islam has been a weapon of colonization in much of history, and has definitely been used to justify the enslaving of Africans, and was brought to African nations through conquest often. But at the same time, in my own life, history aside, like, Islam has been so beneficial for me to be a good person. Like, Islam is like a science of how being a good person will benefit you, basically. Like, Islam will inspire you to stop on the side of the road in a snowstorm and help somebody whose car is broken down. I never considered doing something like that before I started practicing Islam. And then I would just find myself, like, literally in the rain helping somebody whose car broke down on 9094 on the highway, up high, because I'm like, man, it's called sadaqah, you know what I mean? Like, sadaqah is charity. Like, doing good shit, it brings it to you. And that's just science of the universe. Beyond, if you don't really believe in any religion, that's just literally how this shit works. Is that putting positive energy, doing good deeds, blessing others will bring blessings your way. And Islam inspires you to do shit like that. Islam will remind you when you're in the mosque. They'd be like, man, what have you done for others this month? What have you done to help other people this week? Or maybe look at yourself from a year ago. What have you done that was not for you? Even the practice of fasting. Man, that shit is so perspective altering. It's like it's life shifting, because it makes you realize that many of the basic compulsions, that we feel as human beings, are something that you can absolutely transcend. Just the thought that you have to eat 3 times a day. Obviously, that's a massive blessing, and I thank God every day that I'm able to do that. But, like, the thought that you have to. People feel like, oh man, I'm hangry. I haven't eaten since breakfast, so I can't, But then you do Ramadan, and you're like, wait, I could go all day. I could go days, Like, I don't need to eat. Like, just because my body feels like I should do something now doesn't mean I have to. So basically, just teaching you discipline, teaching you that the constraints that you feel and you've always known, like, are not necessarily ironclad. Like, life isn't rigid in those ways. Like, if you have discipline, then you can change your behavior. I love Islam, but like I said, Islam has been used to oppress so many people as well. So, I don't know.
It sounds like you're between two thoughts of, like, acknowledging how it's been used as a deep negative in society, but also realizing the positive nature of it currently.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and like I said, I practice Islam, and I am a Muslim, and I'm so glad that I am. It definitely helped me to become sober, helped me to, like, just let go of so many negative behavior patterns in my life, thought patterns in my life. But also as an African person with knowledge of history, you know, it must be acknowledged that Islam has been used and is still in many places used to oppress and enslave, in the same way that Christianity is like been the most scorched earth, you know, kind of like, I don't know if there's ever been as many genocides committed as those that have been justified with Christianity. I don't have a whole history of mankind in front of me right now, but that kind of feels like it's gotta be. Genocide of the Native Americans, that was Manifest Destiny. That was fully Christianity. Genocide of African people, chattel slavery, transatlantic slave trade, all the way justified by Christianity and like false science, but Christianity was a big part of that, because they also used like the ideas about Ham and, you know, like different biblical justifications for dark-skinned people being relegated to servitude. Then like King Leopold killed fucking 20, 30 million Congolese people. A nigga named King
Leopold.
Leopold.
Top tier genocider.
Yeah, he one of the most wicked ones. King Leopold, you know that nigga was pushing Christianity. 100,000%, bro. King Leopold in like whatever year that was, like 1700 or 1800 or some shit like that.
He conquered the Congolese for rubber, right? Isn't that what it was?
Yeah, I mean, shit, just straight genocide. And you know, the interesting thing about it is just that, like, because obviously we live in like socio-economic structure that is created by Europeans, they also have made have claimed a monopoly on what can be considered genocide, basically, you know, because we only talk about a handful of things as being genocide. We don't speak about transatlantic slavery as being a genocide, but it absolutely
That's true.
is.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like hundreds of millions killed. King Leopold killed 20 million Congolese in just a matter of years. But that you don't learn that in school as a genocide, because obviously, man, you know, the extensions of like King Leopold and Cecil Rhodes in Africa, De Beers still got advertisements in Johannesburg Airport, I'm sure, to this day. You know, like the extensions of those people still pull the strings, and so they cover their tracks, you know, thinly. It's thinly veiled, but like they hold a monopoly on what is called by its name. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't want to pay. That's the thing. That's all it is they still don't want to pay. They don't want to pay right now. That's what's going on. You know, I mean, it's wild to think that America would still scoff and laugh at the idea of reparations in the way that they do.
Totally.
And then make modern day like erasures of simple shit like equitable hiring practices, or, you know, Harvard Law School having to meet a certain quota for the people that literally were enslaved to build Harvard Law School, but they don't want to pay. I mean, the Jewish community got their reparations from being a victim of genocide. Nowhere near as many people were killed there than Africans killed in transatlantic slave trade. It's not possible. But, you know, the economic power, it's not the same because we've sold all of our shit, you know, because all of our resources are largely owned. So you got young guys in like Burkina Faso and some of these like military dictators that have been staging much needed coups and just driving out the French and, you know, the Belgians, etc., that are doing the right thing. Inshallah, may God protect them, you know what I'm saying? Because 100,000% they're trying to assassinate them right now because they do not want to pay. America doesn't want to pay. England doesn't want to pay. Haiti has been paying France for driving them out. And I just think it's hilarious when like these modern day European nations, like, and American, I'm grouping America together with them, when they shed light on their like distant and dark past. Well, pay us then. Just pay us. Pay. And well, first, actually, stop taxing us. Stop making us pay you. You know, when you're in West Africa, in Francophone West Africa, like some ridiculous amount of Francophone West African countries' GDP each year still goes to France because their money is fucking banked in France. They have West African francs where France uses the fucking euro because it's an elevated currency. Like, they're still collecting all of our money, enslaving economically. And in many places, physically too, through proxy militia groups. You know what I mean? Like in the Congo, that's what we got going on is Tesla and Apple are saying, oh, we don't know nothing about all those children mining coltan and the minerals that are used to make our products. We just buy them from the people who sell them. Give me a fucking break. You bitch ass motherfuckers know exactly who's mining this shit. You know it's kids whose arms are getting cut off. You are responsible. Yes. You're guilty. You're fucking guilty, but you don't want to stop. You don't want to pay. That's all. That's all it is. They don't want to pay. That's why, you know, like I said, I love those young guys, Burkina Faso, who are just driving them out. You know what I mean? Just seizing control of the mines. Because what the fuck is a contract? I love when Dave Chappelle was talking about that shit.
The social contract?
Contracts, literal contracts. Like, so because you have a signature, you have my handwriting on a piece of paper that, you know, was likely coerced, or, you know, you got it under shady circumstances. In perpetuity, you're supposed to own me. You're supposed to own me and everything that I own in perpetuity. Like, you're supposed to own our natural resources. A contract doesn't overwrite the fucking laws of God. You know what I mean? The laws of the universe, which is that, like, he created this earth. Whatever entity it is that created this earth didn't give my shit to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you weren't decreed by God. But once again, that's where Christianity has come in and done a number on us, is that they've convinced much of the continent and much of the world that this is the only way to eternal salvation. And so it's hard to be like, we're driving you out when we're still sitting there worshiping your mirror image, you know, and like denouncing the gods that we've known for thousands of years. It's difficult.
Staying on topic, tell me about your time in Palestine.
Man, I was in Palestine in 2017. And I went there with a group of radical, like, black artists, activists, poets, just in solidarity with the Palestinian people. And I was studying deeply. I was all through the West Bank. It was a much different time. It was just crazy to say, but comparatively, it was a super peaceful time, you know, when you could just ride through the West Bank. You couldn't go to Gaza. You know, you needed special clearance for that already, obviously. But, yeah, you could just kind of peruse through the West Bank. I mean, it was still incredibly tense and very violent, you know, like wild checkpoints everywhere you go. Just like military rule, you know, martial law in every corner of the place. But you could still travel, you know, freely as an American. Palestinians cannot travel freely at all, you know. They got to sneak in, sneak out. As an American, that was interesting because it's like your American passport it was one of the first times I really, really recognized my privilege, you know? Like, I think about that a lot at this moment, too. It's like, for all of the immense shortcomings of the American experience, you know, and all the oppressions and genocides and historic forms of control and mass murder and, you know, mass detention and mass incarceration, all that shit, it is really a fucking privilege to be born in this space and time, to be in America. It just is, you know, and I have to come to terms with that shit, because there obviously are those moments when it doesn't feel like a privilege, and it's not a privilege for everybody. Somebody that's been in the belly of the beast, locked up for the last 27 years,
right,
is not privileged by being born an American, you know? Had you been in Ghana and like never been extracted to build America, then the idea of you being incarcerated for 30 years wouldn't even really be a possibility, and the circumstances that led to your incarceration wouldn't have happened. But for me, somebody that is able to have like immense fucking luxury, and I can get on my phone and order food from any corner of the planet, like I could just Amazon anything I could ever possibly want, you know what I mean? I can have at my fingertips. Man, that shit is a massive privilege. And it's like I feel like the idea of privilege is a complex and nuanced reality that it also doesn't serve me to deny my privileges at all. You know, I gotta be grateful for them. I have to have gratitude that I have those privileges of being an American as well, you know, while working to hopefully change America for the better. And as the older I grow, the funnier that sounds, even coming out of my mouth, because it's like, how much do I believe it is waning? You know what I mean? So how much I care about, that's why I told you I don't read the news no more. I don't, you know, ideas about changing America for the better. Like, I don't know. But when I was there, man, like, my American passport made me the privileged class. And so I'm just watching people be, you know, abused, and like I'm just like chilling at the coffee shop because like I'm not the one anymore, you know. I'm not the one with the target. It's not like I'm not the nigga in this situation. So it was just surreal. Yeah.
What were the checkpoints like? Checkpoints
were dehumanizing. They were incredibly long.
How long are we talking?
I mean, like, it just was up to the whim of whoever was working at the checkpoint. So, like, you could get through in 10 minutes, you could wait 5 hours, you know? And it didn't matter whether you were just a commuter or an ambulance carrying a critical, like, patient, you know? You might just wait 5 hours and you might just die in that ambulance. That's just what it is. That's how it is to exist in a network of checkpoints. But the checkpoints themselves are obviously like a complex and overt system of control. Just to be like, man, freedom of movement. That's another thing that I just like meditate on in my gratitude in the morning. It's like the freedom to wake up and decide I want to go to LA, you know,
right.
I want to go to New York, I want to fucking go to Ghana, I want to go to Miami, I want to go to the coffee shop, I want to go across town, you know, and maybe halfway across town I forgot that I'd left something at the house. I want to go home and then I want to go back where I was going. Freedom of movement is such a privilege and such a blessing because so many people in so many places don't have it, you know. Obviously, living in that system of checkpoints, there's very little freedom of movement or not having resources, you know? Like my cousin recently made it to America from Ghana. He'd been trying to get here for the last 15 years probably. And it's just very difficult to get the visa. And he was at his wit's end, you know? It was like he wanted to fly into like Guatemala or some shit and walk through the fucking jungle to cross through Mexico on foot. And thank God he didn't do that shit and get ate by a tiger or some shit, because that shit really, or just get killed on the way. You know what I mean? I read a lot of stories about people like they have I guess India is experiencing like massive economic crisis right now, and so there's a huge influx of young Indians that are flying into South America, going on this like crash out mission, and just like one guy just gets killed and robbed and left by a riverbank, you know. Another one, you know, gets hung up at the Mexico-America border for like 3 years or some shit like that. That's what's going down, but it's so dire. And so the fact that like he was finally able to come here, it just makes me have to like reflect on being grateful that I can go like pretty much anywhere I want to at any time.
Wait, so what happened to your family member? What did he decide?
Oh, his wife got a scholarship to university in Illinois, or not Illinois, in Iowa, like Springfield, Iowa, some random fucking place, something like that, Missouri or some shit like that. And so he was able to come with her. You know, we just had to get him a flight. I think that's how it worked out.
So he's good.
Yeah, he's here.
He didn't get eaten by like.
No, he didn't get ate by a jaguar.
Okay, good. I'm happy to hear that. You sort of left us hanging there.
Like, bro, don't do that shit. Like, please don't get ate by a jaguar, bro. This shit is cool, but shit, it's like that, you know. Shit, it's like that. People can't find work. People, you know, paid pennies on a dollar. I think it's so fucked up that America can have all of these, you know, quote unquote regulations on corporations, but they can just outsource all of their labor to places that have zero regulations.
Yep.
It's fully illegal in America to use child minors, but they can just outsource through
Except for Arkansas. They're rolling back child protection laws.
Word?
Yeah, there are kids that are like 12 years old that are working at McDonald's now.
Man, put those kids to work, man. No,
I know. What's her name? Sarah
Huckabee. Work.
Sarah Huckabee
Nobody
Sanders.
makes a quarter pounder like a 12-year-old.
Damn, that got dark. No, but for real, they're doing it. Like there are kids that are like.
I wanted a job
young.
when I was 12.
You wanted a job? Is that what you said?
Yeah, like, you know, all those kids working. They're like,
Yeah.
I'm still joking about child labor. But, yeah,
so like you're saying you're not going to drive a Tesla is what you're saying?
I drive a Tesla right now. I'm mad conflicted.
Wow, that was interesting. Yeah. I did not see that coming.
I do, man. I got the Tesla right now, and I just wasn't like, I wasn't thinking about it that much. I was trying not to think about it when I got the car, you know, 3 years ago. You know what I mean? And so now I'm definitely conflicted to being like, the shit this motherfucker is carrying on, the shit Elon is carrying on, and obviously he's always been him, but I feel like he's been unveiling like levels to his evil boss. Oh yeah, like evil Mario boss character shit, and just so like,
he's Bowser.
He's definitely Bowser, and then he just boom, he's apartheid Bowser. Like
yes.
And as time has passed, and as he's become unchallengingly wealthy, he's definitely expressed clearly like, oh, I learned everything from apartheid. I fully believe in that shit. That shit shaped my worldview. I feel superior, and I feel the need to own and dominate everyone. I feel the right, not only the need, but the right to own and dominate everyone and everything. Like, they protesting this motherfucker in Germany. Even he trying to wipe out forests in Germany for mega plants. He's responsible for child murder in the Congo. Like, my boy is running a number, and then he just ran it up, obviously by putting Trump in office.
Totally, yeah.
Hugely responsible.
He bought the presidency.
He fully bought the presidency, 100%.
And he's buying members of Congress.
Yeah, he buying the whole thing. I mean, he bought it. He bought it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, damn.
Mm-hmm.
When he bought Twitter and then used it as the vehicle
Yep.
to put Trump in office. Now, I don't know how long I think Twitter would probably last as
this.
Yeah, as the primary mode of communication, because it's like obviously it's some bullshit, but like it's definitely was too big to die between the time when he bought it and used it to put Trump in office, and he doesn't really, beyond that, what the fuck do you need? Because if you got 4 years with Trump in office and you got free reign to do whatever the fuck you want to do, you can entrench yourself in this shit so deeply and run it up to a crazy degree, get all your contracts for your exploitations signed.
Yes.
So you cool for the next 50 years to continue to exploit under the contracts that were signed while Trump was there. I don't know what you need it for anymore. So it can spiral out and die because it already serves
exactly
the most wicked purpose possible.
Mm-hmm. So you don't mess with Elon.
Fuck no.
Obviously.
I felt like Eddie Murphy when I said that shit. Hell no, man. Yo.
I mean, here's the thing. It served its purpose. For him,
Apartheid Elon.
Apartheid
E. That's what he did.
That could be a shitty,
Kinda runs
shitty
off,
stage name.
No, it kind of like rolls off the tongue. Apartheid E.
Apartheid E.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Would you let him get a feature?
Apartheid E?
Yeah.
On the track?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we all knew.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like we had a history of it.
I want to get one of those bumper stickers too, but we all knew. We all knew what was going on. We just chose to turn a blind eye because it's easier to turn a blind eye when he's not on full blown, batshit crazy mode.
Promoting neo-Nazi mode.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he's not full Nazi mode. It's easier to be like,
he was an Obama voter, wasn't he?
Creativity, you know what I mean? But on the real side, we knew what was going on with the mining.
Of course.
Makes these batteries and, Elon's fucking family apartheid history. We already knew. We knew what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want a bumper sticker too, though, while I decide my next move.
Mm-hmm.
We'll
find you one. Go off Etsy. Support local businesses. You work with Tom Morello.
Yeah, that's my guy.
How was that? How'd you guys link up? I mean, you had a huge influence with Rage Against the Machine that you talked about when you were younger. It was like Rage. It was.
I listen to Rage all the fucking time.
I listened to him yesterday. Kurt Cobain. Yeah, I read somewhere your influence was the music from Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Yeah, exactly.
Nintendo 64.
Rage was definitely on Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I think like Guerrilla Radio.
Yeah.
Specifically was on one of those Tony Hawk games. That's probably where I was introduced to Rage. I just love Rage Against the Machine, man. It's like some of the most dense, like revolutionary lyrical music of all time. Zach De La Rocha is a good rapper.
Yeah, he is.
Like he's literally just rapping. And then Tom Morello with the Led Zeppelin level soundscapes and just like crazy guitar riffs. It's really perfect music. Like Evil Empire was my favorite album for a long time. Like in high school, I was just like really caught up on Evil Empire. And then for like the last, I would say like about 7 years, I just have listened to only Battle of Los Angeles. Like
so good.
That's
so good.
I don't even listen to Evil Empire anymore, honestly, bro. And I never really got into the first Rage album because I was so into Evil Empire, and it was like so raw and unpolished. And then when I would listen to the first Rage Against the Machine album, which obviously has amazing shit on it, like the studio quality and shit was a little clean compared to like what I had grown to love about Evil Empire. And Battle of Los Angeles, though, is the only thing I listen to in the gym. So I don't know how I ended up.
Great gym music. Oh my God,
it's the best gym music.
It really is.
It's the only thing I work out to. Like I don't like to think about music when I'm in the fucking. I honestly don't
But
listen.
that music is impossible not to like dissect while you're listening to it because you know the message behind each song. Whether it's like calling out corruption or
Just
Lennon
because I know
Peltier
it so
or anything.
well, I don't have to think about it. I'm like, I just
Okay.
agree with this.
Okay.
I just agree with everything that's being said. I know every piece of it. I know every lyric. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's perfectly timed. You know what I mean? To like, I could take a rest during the fucking verse
Mm-hmm.
and then do a set during the hook. You know, I just agree with it. I just believe in it. I don't have to think about it. I honestly don't really listen to a lot of music these days. Like, I don't listen
That's
to a
so
lot
interesting
of like,
to me. Because, like, I remember interviewing football players when I used to work at an older network. And they would say, like, yeah, like, I go through film, like our team's film and the opposing team's film, but I don't watch football, which is very interesting to me. I see that as, like, a similarity. Like, they will go over their stuff to be prepared for Sunday.
Yeah.
But outside of that, they don't watch, like, other teams.
Sometimes
or
it can
Monday
just
Night
be a
Football.
little bit much, man. It's like when you've been doing this shit for so long, and it's like so all encompassing in your mind already. Like, it can be hard to just listen to music and not criticize it or like, you know, think too much about the shit, you know? Like, I DJ, so when I'm DJing is probably when I listen to music the most, you know? When I'm DJing, I listen to music all the time, but like just chilling in the car,
I was going to say, what do you listen to in the car if it's not music?
sometimes I have periods of time where I just listen to Sadhguru in the car. Like, just listen to him talk. Sometimes I listen to audiobooks if I'm really locked in. Then I'll just listen to like some of my fucking metaphysical self-help audiobooks, like kind of on repeat. Or I'll listen to like old music, you know? Like, I was listening to Sly and the Family
Oh my
Stone.
God, I freaking knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
I knew it.
All week I was listening to fucking Sly and the Family
Fresh?
Stone. I was just going through all that shit. I was going through Fresh. There's a riot going on. I stumbled across Sly and the Family Stone at Woodstock album. They have an album of them at Woodstock, and the
That's cool.
shit sounds so fucking unreal. It's like it's so massive. And so then I called my mom because she went to Woodstock. And
Oh, wow.
I was just asking her about it, and she was like, yeah, they came on at the beginning of the concert, and it was like just the most unreal experience because you had never seen that many human beings, you know, in one place. And everybody was just joyful, you know what I mean, smiling. And this music was like transcendent. I mean, music of the fucking 60s, 70s, really the 70s. I think that's just like when music reached its apex thus far. Like, I don't know that there's obviously individual things
Yes.
have been on that level, but like as a whole, that you got Sly and the Family Stone making music at the same time as like
Stevie
Jimi
Wonder.
Hendrix and Stevie Wonder and the
Staple
Beatles
Sisters.
and shit like that.
Staple
Like
Family.
the Beatles, Rolling Stones,
Nina
like
Simone.
all these motherfuckers are making music at once. No. Stevie Wonder, no, too crazy.
Did you see the documentary
Gap
Summer
Band.
of Soul?
I still haven't seen that shit,
Oh,
bro.
oh my God. If you talk about how you like seeing Sly,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I still gotta
good.
watch- oh, that's the Questlove joint, right?
Yes,
Yeah, I gotta watch that.
it was really good.
I saw it in passing, but I didn't like watch that shit for real.
Yeah, you got to sit down and watch it. It's really, really good. Questlove's also an amazing director. You talked about your mom. What was it like? Because you uploaded a YouTube video of your parents' reaction to Blue Eyes. Were you nervous about that? And what was that reaction?
No, I wasn't nervous about that. I don't think I had ever played that song for them before, and I knew it was gonna invoke an emotional reaction. I think like in making music, sharing music, I think to draw tears is probably tears and laughter are like the most basic of human songs, you know? And oftentimes when you're making a great song, pretty much every time, it's like either it's going to make you cry or it's going to make you laugh. And sometimes in the process of producing a joint and doing your videos and all that shit, that essence can be lost. So if you can find a way to reconnect to that primal human emotion of it, then I guess I seek that out, you know, because I feel like that's the magical spot, you know, is when you can evoke like real human emotion, you know. Something can be so beautiful that you cry. No, I wasn't nervous to play them that, you know. I just wanted to get their honest reaction, you know. You know, that was interesting because I came across that kind of like idea the first time that I drank ayahuasca. I was going into it, I was depressed, and I was asking, why do I feel so much pain? And during the ayahuasca ceremony, I had like a vision of myself seeing my mom's blonde hair through my childhood eyes, and I had this higher voice that was like, I used to want blue eyes. That is the root of my pain. And so then I started making that song, but it just took a long time until the song really came to me. But yeah, ayahuasca, love that shit.
Why?
Ayahuasca's so ill because it's like cutting through layers of repression of memory, you know, and like just psychological gunk that stands in between the depth of understanding that we all inherently have, but it's just so much accumulation of confusion, you know, from living and experiencing, that things like ayahuasca, mushrooms, peyote, it just cut through and can give you a direct window into your truths. Just clear, you know what I mean? Just give you like clear directives. Be like, this happened, this is how it affected you, this is what you can do to transform or transcend. But then you gotta work, you know,
Right.
from there.
Right. How many times have you done it?
I've been drinking ayahuasca like 10 years, almost. I think since like 2015. So how many times have I done it? Probably about 10 times.
And you learn something new about yourself every time?
Many new things. Oftentimes it's like compound realizations, you know, something, a repressed memory that was uncovered here, then another ceremony will add to it, or give more context, or give more perspective. But it, you know, things of all different nature. Like that was the first one I did. There was another time when it just revealed to me that a lot of the fear that I carry is in my gut, which makes sense. They say, what's your gut reaction? You know, what's your gut feeling on this? The gut is the second largest repository of serotonin outside the human brain. So many refer to it as being a second brain, and has intrinsic connections to mental health for those reasons. So it made me realize that a lot of the fear I experienced and carries in my gut always had stomach issues, and just inspired me to change my diet, you know, inspired me to stop eating like any fucking thing. 'Cause I always was slim and, you know, didn't matter. You know, I'm not going to become big for real if I eat Popeyes daily, you know. But from that ayahuasca experience, it just made me clean my food, you know, made me let go of like a lot of those compulsive food choices like Popeyes and Chick-fil-A and shit like that, you know. Just made me realize that those choices are just as integral to my well-being, even if I don't necessarily see it on a physical level the same way somebody else might. It's just as attached to my well-being, mental, spiritual, physical, etc., you know, even if it's not visible. Help me with that. Things ayahuasca has given me in different ceremonies. Definitely helped me with sex addiction. You know, I don't think that any one thing has been like a clear erasure from that, like cigarette smoking or some shit. Because sex addiction is just fucking. It's deep. You know what I mean? It's deeper than cigarettes. It's deeper than rap, for real. And but it gave me perspective on that too, for sure. And like helped me a lot to just contextualize and be like, oh, I'm doing this for so many other reasons. You know what I mean? Like this is just working through shame and anger and guilt and, you know, everything else is being expressed through that avenue. I would recommend drinking ayahuasca and shit to anybody that wants to improve their experience of life. You know, straight up.
I'm curious. Do you have a Rolling Stones tattoo on this hand? Is that it?
That's it.
I didn't know if there was a deeper meaning there. I always wanted to ask you about that.
Nah, that's it. I love the Rolling Stones.
I knew you did, but like, yeah, I didn't
always
know if
loved
there
the
was
Rolling
something else
Stones.
towards it.
The Beatles too, though, man.
Yeah.
Like I'm a Prince over Mike person, but I don't know why I even need to make it a competition, but because
No, you don't. You don't.
But
I think we do that just like for us and for like fandom. You know, it's sort of like comparing like MJ and LeBron. Like it's not needed. I don't care to partake.
Unnecessary. I be trying to break out of that shit, but that shit is like, it's a compulsion. You know what I mean?
For sure.
To compare things. You know what I mean? And compare and despair though. That's what one of my like mentors though is like, compare and despair, bro. You know, just let shit be. That should be what it is. But I say all that to say I do love the Rolling Stones though.
What's one of your favorite songs that they put together?
Painted Black.
Yeah.
Painted Black has always been one of my joints. Beast of Burden though. Beast of Burden is probably actually my favorite Rolling Stones song.
Not to be that guy, but how would you feel about having like a song with Mick Jagger? If that were to happen.
That'd be so hard.
That would be.
Having Mick Jagger
cool.
on some shit is such a flex. I DJ'd for Mick Jagger one time in the Balmain Castle.
Oh my God.
It was like one Paris Fashion Week. I was, he had DJing at Balmain, like Olivier, I think it's just his crib. He just lived in his castle. And so I was just DJing there. And it was like a small kind of like private, you know, sexy party, and Mick Jagger was just there like dancing. DJing. I was like, this is hard. Straight up.
You still got moves?
For sure. Moves like Jagger, folks got that shit. He having moves. He legendarily.
Yeah.
Like,
very legendarily. He does
what
like the
fuck?
moving duck face when he's on stage.
He got his own swag. That
For
shit
sure.
wouldn't work for nobody else. But
I
for him,
somewhat disagree.
you think the moves work for other people?
White people.
Yeah, it's like a white person way of dancing.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
it doesn't work, but
that's
it
why
does.
it wouldn't really work for nobody though, because he got too much confidence with it. Like, who's got that much confidence
for like 2.5 hours
to do that? You know what I'm saying?
Fair
to
point.
move like that, like
to move like Jagger. Yasin Bey is a hip hop influence of yours.
yeah, Yasin Bey is just a cultural, intellectual influence. You know, obviously hip hop, but I think Yasin is like the way he rhymes is it's literature, you know, really. Like the new moon rose high in the crown of the metropolis. Like that could be the opening couplet of like a, I don't know, Shakespeare, for lack of a better, you know, Wally Shoenka or something, you know.
Wait, did you get linked up with Yasin through Common because they were on that song together, Respiration?
I did meet Yasin with Common, actually. I ran into them randomly though in the south of France, like at Cannes, and we were just like walking on the beach or walking across this water strip, and my man was like, who's that in all Rick Owens silhouette?
Of course.
That I'm gonna take a wild guess and just say that's Mos Def. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we ran up, and it was Yasin, and he was there with Common.
Cool.
And you know, just kicking it with them all night and shit. But you know, I think also like man, Yasin, he's super ill with the style too. Like
Yes,
people don't
he is.
really know, you know. I mean, if you know for sure. But like on the style side of things, like he's like leaps and bounds beyond just everything. I mean, when he did that waterboarding video,
Oh, for The Guardian?
yeah, when he was
Wow,
fucking
yeah.
supposedly locked out of America, you know,
In France.
and some shit like that, and he did a video where he waterboarded himself to show people what's really going on with this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's beyond music, you know what I'm saying? I actually have I got an essay I wrote called Yasin Bey and the maybe An American Vagabond or American Vagabond or some shit about my time in South Africa, and just kind of like hearing bits and pieces about his experience in South Africa from people in South Africa, and then thinking about it from, you know, an American perspective of somebody who's a super fan of Yasin Bey. And like, yeah, it was just interesting because as a Black American, you're like, oh, he defied the government? Bet. I fuck with that. You know? And then in South Africa, the interpretation was just kind of different. You know what I mean? Because, and so they kind of felt, or certain people feel a different way, you know, about his experience there, which was just so unexpected for me and confusing to me. Because I was like, from my point of view, I'm like, Yasin Bey is somebody who has spread pride of Pan-Africanism throughout the world, you know, to so many people, and put so much value embracing the continent. And so him being there and being like, I'm in defiance of United States laws, I would think motherfuckers would be like, yes, we will take you in. You know what I mean? Like, we got you. Because those motherfuckers are exploiting us too. Just interesting, you know. But South Africa is a very interesting place too, man, because South Africa is the inverse of America in terms of demographic and European control. If Black African people are 13% of the population in America and have none of the wealth. In South Africa, Europeans are 13% of the population and they hold 90% of the wealth. So it's like a weird inverse. It just is infuriating too when you're down there. You be in South Africa and you be like, motherfucker, you own everything in this bitch too? And like, you just be mad. Like, my girl at the time was South African, and she had to tell me, she was like, bro, you can't keep just being mad at every white person you see in this motherfucker. Like, this shit not a vibe, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
chill out, gang. We try to have a vibe. We're on a safari and shit. You mad at every white motherfucker that you come across. And I was like, yeah, you're right. This is no way to live. This is no way to be on vacation, you know.
Vacation.
Definitely not trying to be on vacation, just like mad about, you know, socioeconomic conditions. But it's like difficult in South Africa because,
Yeah, it's hard to be constantly reminded of it.
because the wealth disparity in South Africa is so wild too. Like, you'll be in the most exorbitant display of wealth. And Black people too, 100%. I actually didn't spend time with no white South Africans. You know what I mean? I was in her uncle's crib. He was a government contractor who sold like toilet to the prisons. Now, South Africa, they have notes of the same system of incarceration that we have here, and collaboration. So some of the same groups, like formerly known as Geo Group, which is one of the most prominent privatized prisons in America. I think they rebranded though, but they also own prisons in South Africa. Her uncle was the guy that sold toilet paper to the prisons. His bag was so long. In his crib, it looked like Kanye and Jay-Z crib. Them the only cribs I ever seen that looked like this. His bag was so fucking long. And then we got in the car and drove like 5 minutes, and we were in Soweto, in straight shanty towns, motherfuckers living in shacks made of tin and like shucking and jiving. I wrote another essay about this shit too. Like I've been writing just collection of essays for a book for a long time, and this other one was called I think it was called Soweto Jack, because the kid that hopped out and he was doing his shucking and jiving dance for us was like, he was like, my name's Jack, I live in a shack, I might be black but I got a 6-pack. And he was just like point at a 6-pack, and it was like you know, can I have some pennies? You know, and it was like it was like disheartening, you know. Obviously, you know, give him money, but it just hurt, you know, to see what our people had been relegated to just straight shucking and jiving. And then I was thinking about it, and I'm like, it's wild because it's shucking and jiving on both sides. Like, to be the guy selling toilet paper to like the exploitative prison system, the African guy who's shucking and jiving at a massive level for a huge amount of wealth, but still shucking and jiving, if that can be defined as like doing a distasteful song and dance for the massa, you know, you working with the prison system is an elaborate shuck and jive for sure. He had to shuck and jive to get a big bag. Soweto Jack, 5 minutes away on Villakazi Street, shucking and jiving for fucking pennies. But everybody shucking and jiving, there's no autonomy. You know what I mean? If somebody else, if another population owns 90% of your wealth, in the cradle of civilization, you know what I mean, where some of the oldest human remains have been discovered, then man, ain't really too many options available to you other than a shuck and jive, you know, which is, it's sick. It hurts to say, but it's real.
I brought this up before. It seems like you're caught between two worlds, because you have this deep amount of self-reflection of the things that are going on and the horrendousness of where we've become as a society. And it's like that Vince Staples line where he says, like, I need to fight the power, but I need that new Ferrari, man. I see a similarity, because it's so hard to like see the oppression and see how people have been so constantly hurt by how man has taken advantage of man. But we also need to find a way to survive for like us and our family as well.
Yeah, you got to provide, you know. You can't really help anyone else till you put your oxygen mask on, you know what I'm saying? And the reality of the situation is that, like, I think in time I've come to more so appreciate that it's the resources, you know. The resources give you the ability to make impact. So whereas some years ago I felt like my primary intention was to like speak truth to power at all times, you know, right when I felt the need to express it, that can also be really limiting as far as the sphere of your influence, you know, because it just is. It's just real. So now I think I'm just being confronted with definitely a confliction that is like, in order to actually make impact, you gotta have that money. You gotta have that bag. You gotta run it up. Point blank, you know, from my vantage point. Obviously, somebody like Chairman Fred Hampton, you know, who mobilized millions, or who's dedicating themselves to a life of people's revolutionary struggle. Well, they're gonna need money too, actually, in order to make large scale impact. Depends on the kind of impact you want to make. Chairman Fred was able to ideologically change many things. Obviously, was also murdered at 21.
Yes, he was.
You know, that's not where you really want to end up. You know what I mean? And we're talking about systems of control that are so founded in capitalistic gain that in order to open new avenues, like you have to be able to play that same game. You know what I mean? And I guess realizing that, coming to understand that the basis of all this exploitation, beyond racial hatred and racism, is capitalistic gain.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that racism and racial animus were concocted as a potion, an elixir to confuse and justify capitalistic gain. It wasn't deeper than that, you know? And it's taken stronghold in people's minds and, you know, communities and cultures in different ways, but like at the base level of it, it's still that, you know? You gotta demonize, otherize, and exploit in order to keep the money moving. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so, shit, I'd be like, man, I gotta get the money now, you know? That's what you have to do, you know? Straight up.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully not by fucking working with the privatized prisons. Though.
No,
you know,
no.
Gotta be lines to this shit.
Of course.
You know, but at the same time, it's like, man, shit, you ain't gonna get no big bag without dealing with no unsavory characters. That's what's real. You know what I mean? Now, how you deal with them and what lines of delineation you draw, those details are important. But to think you're gonna get to the big bag without shaking hands, having conversations, and being in the mix of unsavory activity, mm-hmm. It's not very realistic. You know what I mean? All the big bags come with blood on them. You know, all the big money got blood on it. In one way or another, somebody's being exploited. I guess the question is like, what do you do? Because I believe money is just a conduit.
Yes.
You know, what do you do when you hold that conduit? What are you gonna channel? You know what I mean? How are you gonna use that to impact? But sometimes that shit does have to come from shady places.
Inspirational. All right. Lastly, how do you feel about the people that are on the dollars?
On the what?
On the dollars that we hold in our wallet.
Oh, which ones do we have? We got some dog ass.
We got George.
Slave owner motherfuckers.
We got Abe.
George Washington is a dirty dog.
Andrew Jackson. Ben
we got
Franklin.
A song about him, how he filled his mouth full of slave teeth.
That's right.
He's just a fucking.
But they didn't teach us that in school.
A nasty fucking sicko.
They did not.
And I love how, you know, people like to look back at American history and be like, oh, the times were different. Like, fam, filling your mouth full of teeth of enslaved people, like you ripped their teeth out of them, that level of carnage is not like excusable by any cultural differences in 1750 to like that shit would be sick in the year 700. That should have been sick in BC. Mm-hmm. It's sick in 2024. It was sick in 1700s. So he's a nasty piece of shit. Fucking Abe Lincoln. I mean, I'm not gonna put too much on Abe Lincoln. Abe Lincoln didn't free the slaves out of like love for black people and then wanted to find a way to expel them out of this land that they created, you know, that we created on the backs of our labor. But his military tactic to hurt the Confederacy, it also moved history forward in the way that it needed to. So I'm not going to put too much sauce on Abe Lincoln. And he hometown, you know what I mean? Abe Lincoln is basically from Chicago.
What an argument.
He basically from Chicago. I'm not going to put too much on him. I'm not saying like, Abe Lincoln, he's my champion, you know? Yeah. But I'm not going to put too much on him in comparison to George Washington. Then we have what? Andrew Jackson?
Andrew Jackson on the 20.
I'm trying to remember about Andrew Jackson.
Ben Franklin on the 100.
Franklin is actually the one I vibe with the most, which interestingly enough, though, I was diving into Ben Franklin's slaveholding history too, and it's just like, you know, it's complex, you know. That's why I liked Hamilton, because Hamilton was like, Lin-Manuel was like, man, I'm gonna give dimension to this shit. Ben Franklin, obviously, so dope, you know, such an inventive genius, and in certain ways, like, he really was striving for optimal human virtuous experience. Ben Franklin kept a list of all virtues that he considered to be, you know, of paramount importance: piety, and, you know, not drinking beyond the point of coherence, and honesty. And he identified this list, then broke it down into days, hours, weeks, years, whatever, and was like, I'm gonna focus on this virtue of honesty and just try to make sure that I don't do anything dishonest in this time frame, and add virtues on top of each other and just try to live a completely virtuous life. And at the same time, Ben Franklin owned slaves for the majority of his life. Later in life came around, he made a lot of, it was just too complicated for him. You know what I mean? It's like he came around to a point of like being an abolitionist per se, but like if you read these essays, he was aware of the inconsistency. So I guess in a way it's very human, you know what I mean, to be like, sure, to be completely conflicted about what you're doing and what you know to be right and what you know to be wrong. But at the same time, as an African person, I can't really excuse you, you know what I mean, from a lifetime of slave ownership, especially when you expressed so much acknowledgement of the virtues of human existence and like how to be a good person, that it took you the whole time, like 80 years or something, nigga, to like figure out, to be like, I'm just not gonna have these free laborers. You know, who knows how bad he was treating his slaves, but like, totally, to be enslaved your whole life under Ben Franklin while he fucking labors over the laws of virtue is like, yeah, you're a sicko too. But he was ill too. I ain't gonna lie, I kind of fuck with Ben Franklin for real. So I mean, I'm putting George Washington at the bottom of the barrel though. He's a dog. Dirty dog piece of shit.
He is a dirty dog piece of shit.
Ben Franklin, I got some love for, but also,
feel you.
I'm also not fucking with him.
I get it. The human element was very strong in that argument.
Man,
it really was.
I read this thing where Ben Franklin was like, he was playing each person in a false discussion between an Englishman, an American, and like, you know, might have been just the two of them. And so, you know, the English outlawed slavery before the Americans did, and obviously they were really one and the same at the time. It's kind of like, I'm not even gonna make that comparison because that'll piss certain people off, but it's like it was more semantic at the time, you know what I mean, because they was just trying to found America. And so the English dude is criticizing the American. He's like, man, you talk about all your fucking values and all this shit and your freedom, how much you value freedom, and you are enslaving people currently to this day. And the American was like, oh, but you know, I mean, it's a little bit more complex than that, you know. And this was Ben Franklin playing, writing both perspectives. Fucking brilliant dude. So brilliant. You know what I mean? But, you know, really representative of like just all the shortcomings, all the pitfalls of American exceptionalism and all that shit, you know what I mean? To be capable of such brilliance and like at the same time such heinous evil, you know?
I appreciate your perspective on not only what you put in your music, but also your perspective on life. It's something that I truly cherish and I value. With not just your time, but the way that you see certain things, which is unapologetically you. And it also doesn't come from, I looked this up on Wikipedia. It comes from a deeper understanding of wanting to learn and fostering your own development as a human being, to have a certain perspective and opinion that is not necessarily short-sighted. It's not just even a page, it's a chapter and then a book and then an entire series. So I appreciate what you bring. I appreciate what you do. And I wish you nothing but the best, man.
Hey, love,
Seriously.
man. I appreciate you, man.
Of course.
That's why I wanted to chop it up and talk to you, man, because I feel like, you know, it's not a lot of people that I do end up talking to in this kind of format, you know, that like come from a place of just maybe reverence for information and knowledge, and like a lot of people just with mics just kind of spewing bullshit that don't have, like, they don't care that much, you know.
Yeah.
But just ain't on the level of what we're talking about. So I appreciate you for, you know, having me. And,
of course.
And I'm excited for this, man.
Anytime. Appreciate it.
Here we go.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Vic Mensa for his time, his camaraderie, and his openness, his outspokenness on many different issues. Because when one person with a platform such as his continues standing up for the right things, as the saying goes, a rising tide lifts all ships. And hopefully it inspires more to speak out and use their voices to not only build community, but have a cohesive unit so we can have a better tomorrow. Thank you again. Have a great day.